The Backyard Naturalists podcast is presented by Backyard Birds in Matthews, North Carolina. Backyard Birds offers a unique in-store shopping experience, highlighting the joy and excitement of attracting wildlife with the finest quality seed and the best quality bird feeders, bird houses, bird baths, and more. Bringing people of all ages together with nature and wildlife, Backyard Birds has everything you need to create your own backyard natural habitat. Connect with Backyard Birds at thebirdfoodstore.com or on social media. Now, here's Debbie and Laurie, the Backyard Naturalists.
Welcome to the Backyard Naturalists, the podcast about all things nature-related. This podcast is sponsored by Backyard Birds, located in the Matthews Township Parkway Matthews Festival, right next door to the Dairy Queen. Your hosts for this episode are Debbie Foster
and Laurie Horn.
Laura is the owner of Backyard Birds and also an Audubon member and an Audubon ambassador. I'm Central Carolina's master naturalist and also an Audubon member and an Audubon ambassador and hold a certificate in native plant studies. We're really looking forward to connecting with other nature lovers through this podcast. So if you are a tree hugger, a bird watcher, love to walk in nature, take hikes, this is the podcast for you. We'd like some feedback from you. We'd like to know what you'd like to hear more about. We'd like to hear you ask for information on specific topics that you don't know about. We'd like to help you work your way through problems you may be experiencing in your yard with different types of wildlife and also plants. If you have ideas for a podcast, please let us know. You can send it to the Facebook page, The Backyard Naturalist, or you can go to our website, www.thebackyardnaturalist.com. Today's episode is on pumpkins. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking pumpkins today. Pumpkins. Here are some fun facts about pumpkins, and I guarantee you we're going to tie this to wildlife sooner or later, but you need to start with these fun facts. So according to the USDA National Agricultural Statistics Service, yes, that is a real thing, nearly 66,200 acres of pumpkins were harvested in the U.S. in the year 2020. That's the latest data we can have. That's a lot of pumpkins, folks. And overall, that produced more than 1.5 billion pounds of usable pumpkins, with more than 2 billion produced overall. Can you imagine seeing 2 billion pumpkins together? That's absolutely amazing. Laurie, tell us about the states that grow most of the pumpkins in the United States.
Very interesting. Maybe my family does know this. They are in Illinois, but Morton, Illinois is the pumpkin capital of the world.
Who knew, right?
But Illinois is the number one state, followed by Pennsylvania, New York, Indiana, Michigan, California, Texas, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Virginia. Those are the top 10 pumpkin growing states.
And of that list, Illinois produces almost all of them. It's truly amazing to look at the percentages and see how many pumpkins Illinois produces, even though these other states do have a presence, but Illinois really has a huge presence. Here's a strange bit of information for you. According to farmersalmanac.com, the largest pumpkin grown, which was in 2019, weighed, brace yourselves, 2,517.5 pounds. Again, you're talking about something that's probably about the size of a Volkswagen. That is absolutely unimaginable. And if just imagining a huge honking pumpkin doesn't get your attention, there's also a world record for pumpkin pie. We're coming up on the holidays. A lot of people probably love pumpkin pie and plan on having it for some of the holiday dinners. This pumpkin pie, Laurie, what's your guess for the largest pumpkin pie? Any idea?
I have no idea.
I didn't either until I found this. 20 feet in diameter and weighing over 3,000 pounds.
Wow.
That's a lot of pie.
I do love pumpkin pie.
I'm not sure I love it that much, but I'm kind of imagining how much Cool Whip they had to get.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. We need some Cool Whip.
And then there are a lot of uses that are associated with pumpkins, and some of them are rather out there. So folklore remedies for using pumpkin, freckles. You can treat your freckles. I guess you could try to treat your freckles. I'm not sure how effective it was. And snake bites. And again, I'd have to ask, how effective was that? And why did they get to that point where they're treating snake bites with pumpkin? Many people don't know also that pumpkin is a fruit. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that.
There you
Yes,
go.
I did know that.
I think
one.
most people would probably say it's a vegetable, but no, it is actually a fruit. All right. So
what does pumpkins have to do with nature?
that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Why are we talking about pumpkins here? Because pumpkins actually feed a lot of wildlife. So as we're coming up on using pumpkins, I know all over the town where we live in, we see pumpkins on people's front porches. And I think I read that at least 1 in every 4 people in the U.S. buy a pumpkin. So that's a lot of pumpkins. Yeah. So then we have to say, well, other than serving a purpose for decoration and for carving jack-o'-lanterns, is there something that we can do with these pumpkins? And actually, a lot of wildlife feed on pumpkins.
Yep. A lot of people already know that squirrels do because squirrels will actually get to their jack-o'-lanterns before you're finished with them. But deer, fox, squirrels, chipmunks, not in our area, but porcupines, raccoons, and of course a lot of birds will eat them.
Yeah, and an outside the box thing that I saw is that badgers eat them. Again, not in our area, but who knew? Right. So we can use these pumpkins in clever ways to feed wildlife, to draw wildlife into our area. You mentioned squirrels. I actually saw a cute little graphic, and it was a squirrel inside a jack-o'-lantern. It had just gone in through the opening and was munching away at the remaining flesh in the pumpkin there. So that was kind of interesting. It's really important that we think about reducing our waste. That's part of some of the things that we talk about in the Backyard Naturalists podcast. So the question is, what do we do with our pumpkin after Halloween then?
You can cut it up and throw it out for the other critters to eat, squirrels and everything.
So another thing that you can do is you can feed them to chickens. And if you have backyard chickens, as a lot of people do, that seems to be a very popular trend in the U.S. right now, then you can feed pumpkin to your chickens. You can chop it up and feed it to the chickens. They also like the seeds, but you do want to be very careful about mold on the pumpkin, so you're not going to give it to them after the pumpkin really starts to degrade. You can put it in the compost bin. You want to be really careful not to put the seeds in the compost bin as well, unless you want to produce a lot of pumpkin plants. And if you do, then throw those seeds in there too and let them germinate. You can give dried seeds to outdoor birds. Now, you don't have to roast them, and you certainly don't have to put salt on them, as we might do if we're eating them, but you can just put the seeds outside, and you could put them in a bird feeder, on a platform feeder. You could just sprinkle them on the ground. You know, lots of things you can do with them outside. And then one of my favorite things, and this came from Birds in Bloom's magazine, and they had a lot of pictures of this. So if you Google birdsinbloom.com, you can see some of these things. They actually recommended making a bird feeder out of a used pumpkin. So you're just going to cut the top of it off, as you would do to make a jack-o'-lantern anyway, and you're going to fill it with bird seed. Laurie, since you own a bird seed store, would you recommend a particular type of seed to do this?
I would say any mix or even black oil, just plain black oil. You could do that as well.
That was what I was wondering about black oil sunflower seed, because that's not just going to attract birds, it'll attract other things like squirrels as well.
Yes,
so you might get a variety of wildlife. This particular article that I saw actually had dowel rods used as perches. So they had cut into the sides of the pumpkin on both sides. They had done 4 different cuts so that they could put a dowel rod running one way and a dowel rod running the opposite way to let the critters sit on it and munch away from the contents in there. And then I think you can make it a hanging feeder. You can drill the sides of the pumpkin and put something like sisal, some sort of twine, and hang it from a sturdy tree or from a shepherd's crook, for example. But if you don't want to go to that much trouble, you could also do clever things with it, like putting it on a stump or a deck or on the ground. Do you have other ideas where it could be placed?
I think it would be easier just to set it on the ground or on your, maybe you don't want them that close to the deck, but it'd probably be easier setting it somewhere than hanging it, I would think.
I would think the same thing, because as the pumpkin starts to disintegrate, it's not going to stay hanging for very long.
And it won't be pretty on your deck.
No, and I'd probably forget, and it'd rot all over the deck, so that might be a problem. But rather than putting these things in the landfill, let's offer some benefit to wildlife by feeding them from these pumpkins. When you're creating the jack-o'-lantern, when you're pulling all the goopy stuff out, throw it out in the backyard or put it in a feeder as well. A hanging tray feeder would be a really good thing for this, or a ground tray feeder, and let the wildlife have it. So there's no point just making trash out of it. We've got enough trash. So let's figure out a clever way around this and see what we can do. See, we really did tie pumpkins back to wildlife, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. It's interesting. I never knew that much about pumpkins.
I was telling them when I was researching the fun facts on pumpkins, I went down the rabbit trail a lot because just really seriously, type in wildlife benefits of pumpkin and see what you come up with. You're going to be amazed how many hits you're going to get. Or you can benefits to birds of using pumpkin, for example, and you'll get a lot of weird and wonderful information. And that's always a good time, I think. So today's episode has been about pumpkins and their benefit to wildlife habitat and how you can use them in your yard to attract and feed different types of wildlife, from badgers to birds. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And remember that the Backyard Naturalist is always about all things nature. We would really appreciate it if you would like, share, and follow us on Facebook. And if you would, go to your favorite podcast venue and give us a 5-star rating on our podcast, we would really appreciate that. Meanwhile, we are signing off as the Backyard Naturalist. This is Debbie Foster.
And Laurie Horn.
And we're the Backyard Naturalist. We are wishing you to take a walk on the wild side, get out, and enjoy a little nature.
Production services for the Backyard Naturalists are provided by Downtown Podcasting. To start a conversation on how you can have a podcast, email info@downtownpodcasting.com.